I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a Game of Thrones podcast.
And the end of an era.
Thank God.
Dude, I freaking loved this last episode. Like, after sitting on freaking episode 5 for a week, and then actually watching it, like, after everybody, like, I didn't watch it live with the rest of the world. I watched it, like, literally an hour ago. And, I thought it was awesome. I mean, everybody else was disappointed, so I went in with kind of medium expectations because I wanted to like it. Mm-hmm. And then I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, okay, that kind of sucks. But, I mean, it was going to happen somehow, so that's fine. And because that happened in the specific way that it happened, which I won't forget what it is, don't worry, it made literally everything else happen. Like, it forced the rest of the plot, basically, which I was like, all right, that works. You know, like, by the pivotal point of, like, Jon killing Dany, I feel like it forced the rest of the plot. Spoiler. That's you know, and it was cool because I kind of liked that was the one character forcing him to kill Dany, forced the rest of the plot line out. You know, it forced basically the only one to be king that made sense was Bran. I didn't see it coming, but when they said it, it was like, oh. Anyway, sorry, we can talk about it.
I think that
but I thought it was cool because, you know, I didn't see it coming either.
But even from that same pivot, it could have been better still. And I'll tell you why when we get to it.
Okay, cool, yeah. No, yeah. I'm down for that.
But
that's probably where the book will make it better.
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen with that if he ever comes out with Winds of Winter.
I think you're right, man. I bet he's sitting on him.
A Dream of Spring or whatever.
I bet he's sitting on him till he dies. If he has the title for the last one, which I didn't think he had, if he has the title out, he's written them both. You know, right. I think he's written them, and he's just going to wait until he dies. That's a great idea.
Yeah, if he's got the title. Yeah, I think. Yeah, if you know, A Dream of Spring has been, you know, leaked as the title or whatever. Right? I can't remember if he's officially said it or whatever it is. But if that's the title, then he's got 90% of Winds of Winter completed.
Well, yeah, Rowling didn't leak freaking Deathly Hallows when she was writing Half-Blood Prince. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So she's definitely.
And it's just like how he had to split Feast and Dance because he was writing it and was like, oh no, this needs to be 2. And so if he's been writing it and this needs to be 2, then he's gotten to at least the 50% point of the 2, which means that one is, or a collectively one novel is done at the very minimum.
I feel like definitely, for sure, if they've leaked the second name, it's like, yeah, he's gotten to this.
And that's what I would do if I had no plans to write anything else for the rest of my life except for, you know, like he did the Fire and Blood, and he's going to write maybe some other offshoot Game of Thrones, just, you know, universe filler, you know, garbage that nobody wants.
That's so funny.
If he does that,
fans crazy,
and he's, you know, in his 80s now or something like that, like he could die any day. That's what I would do. Is I would just talk to my publisher or my agent or whoever it is that I can trust to, like, hand it over to the publisher and say, I'm going to die, and you don't publish this shit until I die. Yeah. Also, I've got a DNR signed by every fucking government official in the country. Like, don't fucking let me deal with what's going to happen after this shit gets published.
Oh, for sure. DNR. He's pronounced dead. That means we can publish the books. Well, we brought him back. No, but he died, so we published your books.
Right. Is it fucking Jon Snow rules? Like, does he actually die? And so they can publish it, but then he can still come back.
Dude, that makes the most sense from, like, honestly, I almost feel like strategically and, like, for, like, almost, like, humanitarian-wise. Like, I know that sounds super lame, but, like, if I was gonna die and I had a freaking fat stack of cash just sitting in the future, you know what I mean? Like, he's sitting on a freaking bank load, like, freaking so much money in the future, but he's already got so much because of all the freaking royalties from like the explosion of Game of Thrones. I would set that up to be like, dude, when I die, publish freaking Winds of Winter, and the money for that goes to a Make-A-Wish Foundation or whatever. And then he probably won't do that, but that's what I would do. I'd set it up like Winds of Winter pays off my freaking girlfriend so that until she dies, and then the last one, publish that one a year after. And then that one, all the proceeds can go to my freaking high school or something. You know, just like, I feel like that's what I would do. If I had so much money and no kids or wife or family, really, which he doesn't, You know, it's like he's got a paramour. Freaking how lame is that? Like literally, that's what he calls his freaking forever girlfriend. Nice. You know, and which is cute in concept, but it's like, dude, I don't think she likes being called paramour. Probably, I don't think chicks would walk around.
I feel like if she's with someone who would call her a paramour, then she likes that she's called paramour.
That's fair. That's fair. I guess
those
I'm just
people can only
find
each other.
You're right. No, that's fair. You're right. So I feel like he'd set up for his paramour. At least for the next book, you know, I'd set it up for after he died. That'll pay for the rest of her life, and then the last one would go to some freaking foundation or whatever. Because you know, it's not. I don't think he has anything else to leave it to. So I'm trying to think like, how would his legacy go on? And he loves libraries and shit. So like, I don't know. I hope that's not what he does because I want it to be alive. I want it to come out soon. I don't want to wait for him to die. Who knows how long he'll live? Like if he makes it another 10 years, science will get so good probably that he'll never die, and then the books will never be published.
Right.
It's like I'm never gonna deal with the backlash. That would be so fucking ironic.
Right. That would be exactly what the Game of Thrones fandom deserves.
And that would be that would be like a Game of Thrones writing for an ending for Game of Thrones.
That would be like the most meta thing that could possibly happen.
That would be so funny. Oh man, and it would work in the other universe we're exploring, but not this one. What'd you think? I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but
I mean, it's just like everything else. The past 2 seasons, it's all garbage. It doesn't matter anymore.
Were you happy when it was over, or just like happy because it was over?
I'm happy because it's over. Okay. Because it can't get any worse. It literally can't get any worse because it's over.
And you don't have to care about it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not something that's going to matter anymore. That's part of the reason that I'm glad that Star Wars is going to be doing the same thing. At least it's going to be they say that the Skywalker era is going to be done. After Episode 9 comes out this year, I think it was. And I'm not even resolved that I'm going to actually go see it because the last 2 are just so pathetic.
Yeah, I remember watching the new one and thinking like, well, that's just Episode 4 again, but with a chick.
Right,
a black guy.
And then The Last Jedi was just like atrociously bad. But they're not movies for me anymore. They're movies for children, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Children can have movies. I will not begrudge them movies.
Yeah, and then in 20 years they'll say the same thing. You know, Star Wars Episode 9 didn't compare to Star Wars Episode 15 doesn't compare to Episode 9.
So, but for the same reason, you know, it's just been bad for such a long time, and I've made peace with that fact, and that's fine. You know, it doesn't affect me like whenever I initially fell off the wagon at some point last season, or maybe even late season 6. I can't remember, you know, when I, decided that, it's over. I was definitely a little bit angrier, or not even angry, but just like, I just didn't know what to think about it, I think. And now I'm just like, well, that's just the way it is. So whatever, I'm not angry or upset. I think I could probably still say that I'm disappointed.
Really?
Because even in the end there, they could have made it better.
Yeah, all right.
Even if it was only just like a little bit. I just felt like it could have been more appropriate in the final moments. It could have been more true to itself as a show. And it just continued to betray itself.
What do you mean? Well, let's hit that now.
Well, so
I'm ready. So
it's a show that in episode 9 of the series. So the show starts 8 years ago, 2011.
2011.
We're following a man and his family of Northern Hicks.
And a bastard.
And yes, and his bastard.
The reject.
In the ward.
Yeah, the ward.
And so this is our family. These are the good guys. We can tell that they're good people, and they're standing up against, or at least we know that they have a grudge with some of the people down south that are, have told us that they're bad and have shown us that they're bad by pushing a child out of a window.
I like it. I'm on board.
Cut and dry stakes. We know what's happening.
And we especially like the underdog guy.
Right.
And his underdog dog.
Classic stuff,
Classic. Yeah. Just like a lot of books we've read.
Episode 9.
9.
They kill the main hero. All right.
Yeah.
This show is going to be something different. We don't know what's going to happen. Everybody is up for grabs as far as lives are concerned.
Right.
Continue to do so for several seasons. New characters would get introduced. We would lose some characters along the way, gain new characters.
Yeah.
Characters that we really cared about.
Like Marjorie.
Marjorie Tyrell, whenever the Sept of Baelor goes up. That was probably one of the last great moments of the show.
I really liked Oberyn Martell. He was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked...
that was like one of the most Game of Thronesy things ever, because they introduced this character that's supposedly going to be very important. It seems
that
like
was
it,
awesome.
And then immediately just gets, hubris to hell.
That was awesome. I really liked Jojen, and then they kill him, which I don't think they do in the book, but like...
I don't think really that they do, not at that moment, at least.
Yeah.
From what I remember. And but yeah, so
that was cool.
This is the expectation that gets set 9 episodes in, not even at the completion of the first season.
Right. Okay, I'm on board. This is a crazy show. You don't know what's going to happen.
8 years later...
Do we like that chick from the desert yet? Or is she just some chick with a
chick from the desert?
Yeah, the one with those lizards. The flying lizards. That
bitch
that lives in the desert.
Oh,
it's like,
you're talking about Danny. See, I was like, what are you talking about?
See, because you skipped 5 seasons, and you didn't tell me if she was good or bad. Which is exactly what the fucking show did.
Right, yeah.
They try to make you think she's good, and then they freaking make you hate her again.
Yeah,
and then they make you like her, and then
another
they make you hate her
really
again.
quick aside from my current point. It's just going off of what I've seen, online since the last episode when Danny broke bad. If you didn't see that coming, you need to wake the fuck up when you're watching entertainment.
Shows, yeah.
Because this has been telegraphed for seasons at this point. And there were people who had no idea that was coming.
Really?
And were so hurt and upset. I was like,
what have you been
watching? Have you not been watching the show?
Oh man, I wish that didn't happen, but I knew she was going to go crazy. I thought we were just going to stop her before she did. And then she actually did it.
The implementation of it was bad.
Okay.
They did not do a good job of doing it in the moment.
Fair, yeah. I remember
that's the overarching theme of why this season was bad, was that they did not give themselves enough time to tell all the stories properly. Mm-hmm. Because the interaction between the Hound and Arya last episode was a good moment, and in the way that it ended was good. The Hound imparts this thing on her, like, look at what vengeance has done to me my entire life.
Right.
The only thing I can do now is go kill myself by killing my brother. You have a chance to not do this. If all you ever do is, seek vengeance, you're going to be like me. That's a great sentiment. And happens in like 5 seconds, and she just says thanks and then walks away.
I know.
Could have been those sorts of interactions should have each been 5-6 minutes apiece, and they didn't have the time to do so because they've been in a dead sprint for the fucking end of this series.
No, that's fair. You're right.
But anyway, so season 9, we kill Eddard Stark. Expectations set. Episode 9.
Yeah.
We kill Eddard Stark. Expectations set for what this show is as a character of a show. And the 8 years later, in however many episodes, 60 some odd episodes later, the show that killed its main character 9 episodes in has a happy ending. And that's horseshit.
Dude, honestly though, like, it's, I don't know how else did you want it to end? Like,
so Jon killing Dany was not what I expected. And for a second, I thought they were going to save it. I thought, okay, so Jon kills Dany. That means I didn't think the dragon was going to kill Jon because Targaryen blood or what the fuck ever. I thought that, okay, so Jon either is going to take the throne now by force, which doesn't seem like him, or Grey Worm shows up with his newfound teleportation powers, which I'll explain that in a second.
I remember that. I was like, whoa, how'd you do that?
And kills Jon.
Yeah.
And so then Jon dies, which schisms the Seven Kingdoms as much as anything possibly can at this point. The North, with Sansa, does its thing. There's no king or queen to take the Iron Throne. There's also literally no Iron Throne. The Unsullied just start like seeking retribution and killing everything that they can or whatever because they have no mission, along with the Dothraki, because all the Dothraki ever wanted to do was raid and pillage anything anyways.
Yeah, that's all they do.
And we just have a fractured realm. It's the Seven Kingdoms, which was something that I was part of one of my predictions to begin with, and it was more or less right because it's now 6 kingdoms. But it still could have been better. They should have killed Jon, and then it should have just been everybody suddenly in for themselves and their lands, because there was nothing that could then take over everything. Certainly if they were going to, have the symbolism of melting the Iron Throne, well, then make sure all the Targaryens are also dead, because that's a Targaryen throne. And so, like, they could have made it better, but no one has the balls to kill Jon Snow a second time. And
well, I mean, you even said it though. Like, why would they kill him?
It would be weird, but I didn't think that he would kill Dany.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. But after they made him kill Dany, I was like,
him killing Dany makes it possible for the only people that I think could have killed Jon to kill Jon, which would be the Unsullied. or Grey Worm. Okay. Because Grey Worm has already gone down the darkest path and is just following out Danny's orders of damnation to the very end. And so whenever his last remaining link to the things that he believed in is gone, then he can kill the thing that took that from him and then just go on to be a madman or whatever.
Yeah, but then they would have had to explain off like Grey Worm and company raiding and destroying literally the Seven.
That's just it. You don't have to complete that.
I
the
know,
show
but
can just
that's what
end.
I'm saying. They I know, but they have to. Like
they have to because they
right.
think they have to.
I know. I see what you're saying. I feel like
they're so obsessed with giving every character its closure. Which, by the way, they gave half-ass closure to Grey Worm by just sending him off to fucking.
That
Noth.
was lame. I didn't like that. I was like, what?
Even though he was leaves? Like, so we're like a military dictatorship in the interim, and y'all have to choose a king or queen or whatever. Because
they weren't gonna go for a queen. They didn't say that. They said pick a king, dude.
Well, he said that, but he didn't give a shit. He would have taken a queen. He had
why
a queen.
Why didn't anyone suggest a queen then? I was waiting on my freaking tippy tip toes for someone to suggest Sansa. I was sitting there like, oh, here's our time. This is it. This is when Red's in charge. Oh my god, fire is still in the castle, dude. We got it. And then,
but it wouldn't happen because there's no way they would let that happen with the writing,
man. Because then I would have been right, kinda.
They didn't even let any women into the writing room this whole season. So, and that's a fact. Y'all can look that up.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
It just everything was done so nice and neatly, and with the obsession of making sure that every character got a happy ending that was left. Because every character that was left got a happy ending. Yeah,
dude. Even Jamie got a fucking happy ending, dude. I fucking cried.
As happy as he could.
That shit, dude.
That was
so freaking sad and like touching and like stupid that it got me. Dude, it got me, man. It pulled on every string. It was freaking touching.
It was
like,
kind
man,
of a
she
weird...
loved him and hated him and fucking honored him and like everything, dude. It was like, oh man, she had like every aspect of like a fucking relationship all in one. And then she just like, she was the bigger person about it and was like obviously the Kingsguard. So she had to take on the duty of continuing writing. But it was you saw Jamie's shitty ass handwriting with his left hand like a child wrote in the book. And then you see her with her noble hand coming in and concluding Jamie's story and writing pages of it. And I was like, dude, this is fucking epic. Dude, tears. Yeah, it got me, man. That was cool. Even though last episode of our show, I was like, fuck Jamie. He pushed Bran off the top. But if Jamie didn't push Bran, then he wouldn't have become freaking king.
Well, everything
Episode
would have been
1,
different.
dude. Episode 1.
If
King
Jamie hadn't pushed Bran,
Jamie
then
picked the king.
The whole
there.
war wouldn't have happened. Because I guess the war starts because Ned gets killed.
Well, but the thing is that if he hadn't pushed Bran, Bran would have gone north. And the thing was that Bran was supposed to temper Joffrey. That was the idea of sending Bran north with everybody. Bran was going to go... No, he was going to go north with... south. You're right. I'm completely wrong.
But
he was going to go south with everybody. But that's another...
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. That would have been a whole different, more peaceful community.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. That's the thing is it makes too much sense. And it makes too much sense from the standpoint of let's just chicken shit out and make this as cheesy and corny as possible and make everybody have nice little warm butterflies in their tummy.
I think... You're right in the sense that it makes too much sense, so it didn't feel like a raw Game of Thrones ending, like how if they had left the Seven Kingdoms shattered,
it just hasn't been Game of Thrones for so long.
Yeah, I do think that if the books come out, it will have an ending, and the ending will be similar, dude. It does make sense. If you had told me before the show, like before season 5 or whatever, whenever they caught up with the books, if you had told me back then when I was a huge fan of both, they were both super congruent with each other, that like, okay, this is how it ends, like, and then you kind of gave me a little bit of a play-by-play of like, explaining that, Dany, how she goes corrupt with power, the whole thing, not just power, just like her whole backstory and why she kind of loses her mind and does what she does. And then John, and I don't know, I probably would have been like, I guess that makes sense. But I don't even know if I would have believed you because it would have made too much sense. It would have been too well-rounded. But it would have made sense, and it would have been in the back of my head. And it would have been something I probably would have always said. But I never have heard it as a theory that Bran is king.
I don't have a problem with Bran being king. I see the logic behind it given what is remaining.
Mm-hmm.
But
Brand the Broken.
There's just no. I don't know. It just doesn't. It could have just been so much better in so many different ways, and even with just that last bit, at the very end that I suggest, just fucking kill John. Just do it. Just quit being a bitch and kill John.
Yeah.
And then, that would have been so much more true to itself as a show. Because,
right. Like,
there's nobody important died this whole season.
Daenerys died?
Aside from Daenerys. At the last second. No one else important died this
Cersei?
season. Yeah, but she didn't matter this whole season. All she did was just stare out a window drinking wine.
I guess so. The Night King, but...
We were showing that how important he was. Killed him off immediately.
Yeah,
with
and he seemed
no
to matter
ceremony
for a
at
couple
all.
Seasons.
He seemed to matter for a whole goddamn series.
That's the weirdest part about the show is that, the freaking 3 main plot points of the show, like the happy family in the north, with the bastard underdog kid that we already like off the beginning, it's their story. And then we follow this chick that's also an underdog that like has this douche ass brother that like, and then she gets sold into slavery and we feel bad for her. And then she comes into her own and then and then we're just like, okay, we kind of like her now. And then, who's the third party? I had a third party with this.
The dead.
Oh yeah, and then literally the first season was like the undead.
That's how the whole series opens.
It opened with the
entire
scene from
series
Beyond the Wall, which was insane. So it was like, and I guess we get a little bit of like the kingdoms, which was cool. But like that was kind of the beauty of the show is like it showed you so many things, and then none of them seemed to matter.
Yeah,
there's nothing. That was just frustrating. Yeah, maybe that's the point. Is that like they matter?
They couldn't even. Yeah, exactly. They couldn't even stick to how long the seasons last in this series because it's like snowing whenever this episode opens, right? Because winter is here, and it had started snowing in King's Landing, like somewhere in the middle of last season or something like that.
And why?
And then whenever they're having the King Council to figure out who the king is, there's no snow anywhere. It hasn't been snowing for forever.
That's
apparently,
a good point.
It's been weeks since Jon killed Dany, but seasons last years in this universe, and this was supposed to be the longest winter or whatever.
Oh yeah, dude. And why would they go beyond the wall for the longest, coldest winter ever, dude? At least stop at fucking Castle Black.
It doesn't make any sense.
Don't go beyond
and before
the wall
anybody
yet.
texts me saying it's because the Night King is dead, that doesn't matter. It was already snowing literally in this episode in King's Landing. Drogon came out from a pile of snow. So
yeah, he was laying in
that
snow.
argument doesn't work.
Yeah. No, it was snowing everywhere.
It's just so stupid. They just can't. They just have been completely incapable of sticking with anything Game of Thrones.
Honestly, man, like when the dragon was there and he saw his mom dead, I was like, all right, well, this would be your time to do it. Go on. Go on. Go ahead and do it. Like, Go on, show. Kill off the main guy again.
They would have.
And then, because that would have been the only thing that could have killed him.
Grey Worm will kill him.
I guess, dude, but like if he had gone back out to face the people, like. Honestly, it didn't make sense that he didn't die immediately. You're right. Right. He should have died immediately. He shouldn't have ever been
We literally
captain.
had a whole minute of interaction between Jon and Grey Worm where Grey Worm was just slaughtering prisoners.
Man,
then they take Jon prisoner and let him live for weeks instead of killing him.
Was it weeks?
It had been weeks. You could tell by the growth of Tyrion's beard, and then also when Tyrion says with the mouth that's inside of his beard that it's been weeks.
Oh, I didn't hear him.
So yeah,
I wasn't listening to that part. I was just it's only been moments for me.
Whenever he talks, he said something like, I've nothing to do but think for the past several weeks.
Oh, I thought that just meant like since I guess he's been in prison for weeks. Yeah, because he got locked up.
And his beard was substantially longer.
Yeah, he got locked up
whereas Jon's was not, which I was like, man, they didn't have any. They ran out of beard wig.
I think his hair was longer. Maybe they just undid it.
I think his hair was probably longer, but
I think they just undid it.
Like Tyrion's beard gets like yours, and like it's like thick and really long or whatever. Whenever it had been several weeks, but then Jon's was like Kenneth's facial hair, like not there. I was like, maybe that's just how. I guess we probably hadn't seen him like with like an unkempt beard. Dude, did he keep it while he was beyond the wall the first go around? I don't remember because he was with them for a couple months, right? The Wildlings.
Yeah, man. I feel like the last time he shaved was when the freaking king came to Winterfell.
Maybe right.
And back when he was almost a Stark.
Right.
Why would you choose to go to the wall? You're already lowest on the totem pole. You know, at least like go live a life. You know,
I think he thought that he could make something of himself honor-wise by doing so, because there was never anything that he could do with the family.
Do it for yourself. Don't do it for the family. Do it for Jon Snow.
In any case, how about those teleportation techniques that fucking Grey Worm has?
Yeah, why hasn't
he
been
doing slaughtering those fucking prisoners, and then they leave him behind to continue slaughtering fucking prisoners.
And then he was there when Jon wanted to go talk to Dany.
Yeah, right? This was like the ultimate fast travel episode. Like, people were complaining about fast travel last season. Holy shit, this episode was like literally people teleporting across King's Landing. Because they're walking like into the city, right? And then Tyrion's like, I'm going to go on. And then Jon and them, I guess, continue walking. But how do they not just keep up with Tyrion? Because he's got half the leg size of him. So, like,
he knows all the.
He's like, I'm going to go on. And then suddenly disappears. And so then Jon's like, okay, I guess we're going on too. They come across Grey Worm, who's slaughtering prisoners. They, have a little, confrontation and then go on to go presumably find Dany.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, let's go find the fucking, queen.
Pissed.
And then so Grey Worm's still there just like, killing the remainder of the prisoners. And then we cut to Tyrion, who has somehow made it into the fucking dragon chamber, which is like way up in the Red Keep, and then he's got to go down into the Red, the bowels of the Red Keep to find, because he wanted to see if they were there, or if they maybe made the escape that he had planned for them.
Oh, did they? Because they didn't show their body; they just showed the hand.
And then he dug it up, and you see their faces.
Oh, see, I was walking outside and I was watching on my phone, so I didn't see that. I just heard him crying.
Yeah, you see their faces.
I guess he probably wouldn't have been crying so much if he only found his hand.
Right, and so then we cut back to Jon, who's walking through a Dothraki crowd. And is walking up the stairs. And who's at the top of the fucking stairs with Dany? Grey Worm. How? Doesn't make any fucking sense.
He knows teleporting. You said it. That's the way.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, man. That was really, like, they should have seen.
And then Tyrion shows up halfway through Dany's speech. So it's just
Did you see that Starbucks cup in that episode like 3 episodes ago?
I didn't see it live, but I saw everything happen.
I saw all the, like, blowback.
Evidently there was a water bottle in this episode during
really?
the council.
Oh, jeez, guys, come on. $1 episode?
They just don't care anymore. But, yeah, man.
Yeah, they quit caring, too.
This show is just what it is, and that's okay.
I'm glad it's done. I think the books are going to be about as good. That's probably why Martin doesn't want to do with the blowback, because he's like, well, right. I wrote a happy ending, sorry.
Right, yeah. As critical as I've been for, now 2-3 years of the show, I'm still relatively enjoying it.
Yeah.
I criticize it because I love it as a franchise, and
right.
I'm not calling for anybody to rewrite it or to lose their jobs or anything like that. Like the fucking internet culture that is currently doing that for DB Weiss, or Benioff and Weiss. So I can see
people are calling for them to rewrite it.
Yeah, there was a petition.
Over yourself, dude.
Redo
your art.
The internet just sucks.
You do your art different from me.
I think that it would be.
Do your art different from me.
I think you're pushing the boundaries of the word art for this
series.
Do
your art different from me.
I don't think this is really art anymore.
But it's their art. So do their art. You know what I mean?
They should get a different job then.
Yeah, well, according to other people. But, see, you're one of them, dude. You're one of the do your art different from me.
No, I'm
just kidding.
I don't think they can do it differently.
I'm kidding. Honestly,
I don't think they're good enough to do it differently.
We wouldn't do this if we didn't like the show, man. I mean, it's just that simple. I
don't like the show, but I like the property, and I've already invested, several years into it. So you've made an investment in your
it's made an impact in your life. Like you've liked parts of it. You've enjoyed this season, whether it was good or bad. I mean. I know it was something to look forward to every week, whether you wanted to watch it or not. I know. I mean, it's not like you waited every moment, but it was like, well, I mean, you watched it live. It's not like you waited.
I watched it live tonight or last night just because I happened to.
Well, still, you did, though. I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, I didn't even watch it live. I don't know.
This is because you fall asleep all the time.
Yeah, I literally couldn't make it through. I don't know. It's hard to say I don't like it because I was satisfied at the end, I mean, I don't see any other way that they could wrap it up without leaving it open and and knowing they're going to wrap it up. It's like, all right, that's fine. That's a wrap, it's good enough.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the whole thing about this show for so long was that it wasn't like a typical story.
No, yeah. Yeah.
And then they end it with a happy ending like every typical fairy tale.
Yeah, I did kind of like, though, it was a little bit poetic how the end was like nobody was really that happy. Like that's kind of what they were trying to say with like they.
You're talking about they're like all smiling and they all get what they want.
Well, Tyrion literally went to Jon and he's like, "Hey, here's what we ended up deciding. Bran's king. He doesn't want to be king. I'm Hand. I don't want to be Hand. Grey Worm has to go home. He doesn't want to go home. You know, Sansa gets to be queen, but she doesn't. She totally wants to be queen. And then he's like, but you have to go to the wall. And then he's like, there's still a wall. He's like, well, we're not going to talk about that, but you have to go to the wall and you can't get married and you can't have a family. You are now a bastard again. You know, it's like, it kind of sucks. Nobody gets to be, you know, you don't get to be king like your name Hood, you know, and even though he didn't want to be king, so it doesn't matter, but it was kind of neat how nobody got exactly what they wanted. Like Tyrion was kind of forced into a form of like prison, you know, because like, he was forced to be the Hand of the King. Arya is almost exiling herself from her family that she fought so hard to get back to, you know? And then her family's been broken, and Sansa now has to take on the responsibility of her whole family, which is something she's always wanted.
Well, Arya was never going to hang out in Westeros.
No, she was never going to live in Winterfell either, or, you know, or be a lady, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But Arya got exactly what she wanted.
Yeah.
Sansa got exactly what she wanted, except that she was kind of bummed that she had to exile Jon.
Yeah.
But even that, she was just kind of like, whatever. She was still smiling when she had her crown and her throne back in Winterfell, and everybody was shouting Queen of the North.
Wasn't my brother anyway. No brother of mine.
Bran has had no emotion for 2 seasons, and then all of a sudden is very snarky.
I know. He's all funny this episode.
And Tyrion... I think Tyrion is the only one that's like somber and sad because there's probably nothing in this world that he wants anymore. Now that like his brother is dead, the person that he believed in to be a good queen turned out to be just like the rest of them. And he kind of showed himself that he kept making mistakes and the wrong choices. Yeah. I mean, so he might be able to find...
He did get his moment though that you were talking about, how he finally got to use his wit where he walked up and was like, all right, well, this is the plan. Let's see if anybody can poke holes in it.
No, that wasn't even a good Tyrion moment.
It was the only Tyrion moment we got for the season.
Yeah, it was the only Tyrion moment.
But it was
and
the moment.
And it was not even like a Tyrion moment. It was just it was a moment with Tyrion in it.
And he fixed everything. Classic Tyrion moment.
They just spend like all this time like talking about how everybody's tired of him, and then Grey Worm's like, everybody's heard enough of you.
I'm surprised.
And then everybody lets him talk.
I know.
And just without even questioning his ideas, they're just like, yeah, we should choose a king every time.
That was silly because then it was like
just like totally buy into it.
That was silly that it was just like nobody listens to you, stupid, you know. And then he's like, hold on.
He's like, yeah, you're right.
Let me say
everybody
it anyway.
has heard enough from me, and it has proven to not be for the betterment of anybody. But what if I say some more things and we do it?
And then everyone's like, let's do it actually this time. You know, he just said he's an idiot, but
it's just such inconsistent and convenient, crappy writing garbage. Just like, how do we fit all these pegs into these holes just so we can get away from this fucking show finally? I think they're just as tired of it as we are.
Oh, they're for sure ready for it to be over, and they're worried about the blowback from this episode too, which sucks. You know, that does suck, being like a freaking creator and like you take a huge risk like on this big show, and you don't know if it's going to be any good. They're not even done writing the books, and you're like, hey, let's pitch this show. He'll probably finish the books in time. You know, and then it becomes this worldwide major freaking phenomena. And they didn't see it coming. They're just normal guys. It's not like they're just not like they were George R. R. Martins. They're just normal producers, you know, that took a great thing. Because George R. R. Martin's the one of a kind, you know, the one that made the actual adventure that we're all longing for. The whole like kind of backstabby House of Cards kind of like, you know, the game for the throne. Mm-hmm. Like that's what we're missing. But you know, these guys aren't him. So I guess I don't really know what I was trying to... I guess I'm just trying to give them a little bit more like credit because I'm just thinking like 2 normal guys took on this big thing. But I guess if you take on a big thing, you know, you got to carry a big weight, a big responsibility to make sure it's good. They're just
TV writers. Yeah, and that's the thing. If they were going to do that, then they needed to be prepared to do it right.
And I think you're right. I think they ran out of steam or they gave up or it got too big and they're just like, you know...
Well, it made too much money is the problem. It made too much money and then they couldn't like look the HBO execs in the eye and say, we're going to try to not make as much money by making it you know, instead of being safe. Because for every like loud, angry voice about how everything ended, there's 10 non-existent voices that were just like, I did really love this show, and I will buy the Blu-ray when it comes out, and I will rewatch it, and if they do a movie, I will watch the movie. And you know, the people that just enjoyed it don't say anything, and those are the people that make all the money for different products.
Oh, just the masses.
Just the masses that don't have anything loud to say one way or the other.
Yeah,
they just consume.
I'm one of the sheep, dude.
And
I watch a movie,
and you lose those people whenever you make hard decisions in a creative sense.
I got you.
And so they started making so much money, and it was such like a fucking like mint that they're like, we can't abandon the mint. We need to just continue being safe.
I see what you're saying. I was a blind sheep following the shepherd. I would have followed him no matter what. You know, like they could have done anything. They could have literally made like Bran gay and made that a huge point in the story, and I would have still been like, all right, well, I guess they have to because it's the times in our political, you know what I mean? Like they could.
Right.
I was just like, I literally would have followed it like a blind sheep because it's Game of Thrones, and I put so much time into it. And I think you're right. I think they just didn't want to. I think they already had the fans like you and me that were a part of the book in the early phenomenon when it was still such a rising phenomenon. They had us hooked in. And then they're just like, let's not lose any of the rest of the herd because we have a huge cult following now, following now, and the cult's gonna keep following us no matter what. But the group, we can't lose them. So I think you're right. They probably did have to think of the masses in that way, which is, you know, again, it all boils back down to it being the one person. Like that's what makes I'm gonna make it relate. That's what makes Joe Rogan's podcast so good is that it's just him and Jamie, his producer, them making all the decisions, doing whatever they want all the time for the show. And that's what made the book so good. It was just him writing. I mean, given book 4 and 5, I think he wrote it as a giant book 4, and then his writer producer was like, this book's too long, you gotta cut it. And he was like, fuck, and then he cut it in half and he made it into 2 books that ran through a similar timeline.
Right, yeah.
And he was like, if you want me to cut it, I'm gonna make it weird.
Right. But he's still doing what he wants with it.
Exactly. That was my point. And then when you get all the producers and the executives, and when it's a massive
corporation, a giant machine,
exactly. I think you're right. I think that's where it lost its value.
I mean, Benioff and Weiss are obviously good TV writers and good TV directors. Mm-hmm. The reason that this show was great was because it wasn't like every other TV thing. And it ended like every other TV thing. Okay, I see. And so that's what's so bad about it.
No, I mean, even with Harry Potter, the Rowling wrote all of them, no influence. Was taken in, and that's why I didn't like the movies as much. I thought it was stupid that he snapped the Elder Wand over his knee. I was like, you can't do that. That wand's unbreakable, and then he just does it. Different story and different book, but what I'm saying is I think just I still think I guess I have a lot of faith
small
that the
things like that
good.
You have to change small things like that for the adaptation from book to movie or book to TV show or whatever.
They didn't have to change that one, I don't think. But I see what you're saying.
Well, I don't remember how it's supposed to get destroyed or whatever.
It doesn't. He puts it in Dumbledore's grave, and Harry's going to die as the Elder Wand's owner.
Yeah.
It was, and then I think that's the plot of one of the other books is that because Harry gets disarmed in his job as an Auror or whatever, somebody else gets the Elder Wand. I think that's literally the thing.
It could be the next thing or whatever. But yeah, it just.
But it didn't.
But even as an example, small things like that get changed in the transposition. Sometimes because they need to, or sometimes because it's way too much work to keep it the way that it originally was, and that's fine, but the major plot points are all still the same.
Exactly. But they had to follow the author first.
The character of the story is still the same.
Because the author wasn't caught up. And I think that probably
But they could still hold with the same character of the story,
I think they tried. I just don't think they...
I don't think they tried at all. Jon Snow's alive and he's fucking off with wildlings beyond the wall.
Yeah, but do you think Martin's going to kill him?
I don't know. Well, I don't think that... It'll be because all we've ever been told was that Martin told them how it ends, not how much of it. Just that, we don't even know how much. Was all he told them? Bran sits on the throne, or was all he told them? Jon kills Dany.
Get there.
Or did he tell them several things? Did he say Bran sits on the throne, Jon kills Dany, Sansa doesn't take the North back into the fold of the Seven Kingdoms, or did he only tell them one of those things?
Right.
Because all they've ever said is, he told us how it ends. That way, if he dies, we can get there.
Yeah, we know. We're good.
So did he tell them everything, or did he tell them just the actual final plot point, you know? If he told them everything, or whatever it is, but they still didn't stick with the character of the show because, like I said, it's been almost 2 seasons since anybody important died, Danny notwithstanding, because, she dies at the, literally last second of the episode almost. So there's been no stakes for 2 seasons. I never felt like... So after the fight on the frozen lake last season, whenever the dragon dies, nobody died except for the dragon, which who gives a shit? Like, they had to start calling the dragons for it to be a fair fight between, Danny and South.
And they had to get the ice army through the wall.
Yeah, and that was, a convenient plot device. And it also gave the dead something to fight the dragon. So if even the balance between, the living and the dead, and so that was fine, or it was necessary. So, like, who gives a shit that the fucking dragon died? I was never attached to any of the dragons anyways. But nobody that went that north died except for Thoros, which was fine because... we're tired of Baron Dondarrion coming back to life anyways. And so, like, none of them died on that frozen lake. I was like, okay, well, there's no stakes. And then nobody else died the rest of the season. And then at the Battle of Winterfell, literally nobody died. So, okay, well, there's no stakes. Everybody lives until the end of this fucking show. And everybody did. Except for, like, so Jaime and Cersei died, but that's because the only choice that they had was to die together or to fuck off east or something like that. As characters, because they could have never lived in Westeros once the new powers come into play.
You're right, man. They just left us hungry.
And then after that, everybody else that was important lived.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit that Ser Jorah died? His purpose was long served. Who gives a shit that Varys died? Like, the people who did die were completely inconsequential.
Dude,
or rendered useless throughout this whole season.
And then Bronn comes back like, oh,
and he's just like the master of coin now.
Yeah. I would have just been like, oh, dude, by the way, fuck you. You dick. I'm taking one of those titles away from you for threatening me. I'm going to keep you as freaking... I'll still give you freaking Highgarden. You don't get to be in charge of the money.
Right.
Stupid.
Well, I think that... Or at least I assume. I don't know. The only reasoning that I can find with him being Master of Coin is that he's now... the head of the most wealthy... Money. Yeah, he's the head of the most wealthy house now.
That's why. I mean, I guess...
Highgarden.
I guess... Baelish was Master of Coin because he was freaking good at arithmetic, but I think that's literally why.
He was just conniving, yeah. He just worked himself into that.
And I don't even think he was really good with the money. I think the crown was in debt. A lot.
Right, yeah.
And he was just like, ooh, well, I'm just going to keep borrowing. And
also, why did Dorne decide that they were going to stick with the Seven Kingdoms?
Why did
they? They literally are the only ones that have a crown prince because the Targaryens couldn't take them over.
And then they're just like,
and now that there's an opportunity to not be part of the Seven Kingdoms, they could be on their own again.
I guess it's in Dorne's best interest because then they have allies and they have potential to run for the throne. I mean, they could get elected when Bran dies or whatever. I guess it's like the Pope when he dies. You get I gotta pick a new one. But that even and then when Sam suggested democracy, let's have democracy. And then
my God.
Voting? Are you an idiot?
I would have turned off my TV if they would have been like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
I know.
Fuck this show.
As that was happening, I was like, man, I sure hope that doesn't happen. As nice as it would be, it'd be awful for the story.
Right. Sam was only pointless and aggravating this whole season. The only thing that he does is just give Jon another, hey, you're actually this dude. But who cares? Bran could have told you that, and Jon's already bought into the fact that Bran knows everything. So we didn't even need Sam to do that. And then Sam just becomes a whiny, pussy bitch during the Battle of Winterfell. Annoying, needs to die. And then Sam fucking proposes democracy like an idiot in this fucking just shut up and die. And then he fucking writes, or he doesn't write, but he presents the Song of Ice and Fire book to Tyrion. Oh, look at how meta this shit is. Just shut up and die, and now he's Grand Maester. Just fuck
Grand
off.
Maester was stupid.
He gets what he wants. He's
Grand
Grand Maester.
What was him writing the book? What was that? I didn't understand that.
That was the story of the war. That was the story of it. That was literally them being like, A Song of Ice and Fire, literally what y'all have just been watching. This is the series. Lol.
That was the dumbest thing then, because I didn't even get it, because I was like, obviously fucking Tyrion was a part of it.
Yeah.
Literally, he
that was just like a
known
stupid
as
idiot
the
joke.
imp.
Yeah.
Like, everyone called him the imp. Whores knew him as the imp. People in the town knew him as the imp. Everyone knew him as the imp. And he fucking... he won wars and shit, dude. Of course he would have been written about. God, that made me mad, dude. That makes me mad now.
One final jab at him being the imp or whatever. You know? It was just like supposed to be a funny joke.
Hopefully he was just teasing, because he's definitely got to be in that book, because there's no way he couldn't be in the book. I hope he's just teasing. Man, I'm mad.
The show just has like such a stupid sense of humor, and sometimes it works really well. Like when Qyburn died last episode, that was hilarious.
How did he die? Tell me again.
The fucking mountain just throws him against the wall.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, that was good.
That was awesome.
Thank you. I was like, who is Qyburn?
And that's the kind of humor that this idiot show has. Like, they do that, but then they also fucking tell Tyrion that he's not in the Song of Ice and Fire. But then they also have fucking idiot-ass Edmure Tully be like, I can be king. And Sansa tell him, sit down, uncle.
Sansa telling him to sit down was kind of funny. But I honestly, as he stood up, I was like, he's going to say Sansa. And then he fucking is jerking himself off,
he's just a stupid idiot.
He's just slow stroking himself, and it's not getting anywhere.
The show just has such like hit and miss weird humor. And sometimes it is funny, like Edmure being a dumbass piece of shit, thinks he can be king. Everybody just laughs at him. And sometimes it's Sam.
He didn't even sound confident. He was like, I like to think that my expertise in battle would be...
Like, the further he went on, the more he realized that nobody took him seriously.
Yeah.
Like, remember whenever you were being paraded in front of your castle as a hostage and you were crying every day? We remember. And then
Jaime was prisoner and then got his hand cut off and didn't cry. That's why we let him back. I mean, it's true, he did, and we did let him back, but...
Who do you think the person sitting next to Edmure was? Because it's Sam, a man presumably from the North, one, Gendry, Sansa, or Arya, Bran, Sansa, and then we go to like the people like in the Midlands and the South. We go to little Robin Aaron, who is now like super cool teenager, like leaning back in his chair with his fucking boots all splayed out, like he doesn't give a shit. John Royce or whatever his name is. He was the one, the kid that you didn't recognize because he's now 6 years older. Look, he hit puberty, and since the last time that we saw him talking with Sansa.
Which one was from Dorne then?
The one with all the robes at the very end, who also has tan skin. Who is just like some rando new prince.
I'll need to look up the lineup again because I completely forgot.
But that person that's sitting next to between Edmure and Sam is just some dude from the North. What house is he supposed to represent? What great house is he supposed to be a part of?
Yeah, because it seemed like they had somebody representing.
Because they're supposed to be like all what's left of the great houses. You've got like Sam representing the Night's Watch / the Citadel or what the fuck ever.
And the Tullys, I guess too, or the Tarleys.
He seems to speak of himself as the Tarleys. He said we represent the last of the great houses or whatever. But the Tarleys, were they like a great house? I thought they were like a medium or minor house. Like they literally they have a Valyrian steel sword, but they never get talked about until.
I mean, they're just like, I think they were like. I don't think they were on board with Robert's rebellion. Like, I think they had to, like, bend the knee, so they were always kind of like, well, we're here, but we're not...
Yeah, they were more prudent than anything. Well, they were Lannister bannermen.
Yeah. And I don't think the Lannister... Yeah.
Because I always felt like the great houses were the ones that had bannermen. So, you've got, like, the Baratheons with Stormend, the Lannisters with Casterly, the Starks in Winterfell, the Tullys and Riverrun.
Greyjoys.
The Greyjoys, yeah. Well, no, because the Greyjoys get put in their... that's where it is like a weird gray area, because they get put in their place after they try to rebel. And then Ned Stark takes Theon as prisoner for good conduct. And I think they become Stark bannermen, sort of.
Oh, so are they not?
But they have the Seafoam throne and the Driftwood crown still. Like, they still act like... They have all the trappings of a great house still.
Yeah, I think they are, but he's just forcing him to be their bitch.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want to know who that random person was. Yeah. Also, and then, Yara was on the other side. And why is Yara all like, we should kill Jon, he killed our queen that I pledged to? Like, why the fuck do you care?
I barely remember her pledging to her. Like, I barely remember that.
It's whenever Theon rescues her and then they go see her over in Winterfell or whatever, and then she fucks off back down to the.
She was like the only one
super
super anti-Jon.
Yeah, that was just literally, I think, to just show that there's a lot of people with ill will against Jon. We can't just let him go free, narratively. But why the fuck does Yara care? Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, just like how her brother hated Jon, she now does in his honor, in his name.
In his honor.
She took on Theon's persona. He hated Jon too. Not actually when he was Reek though. When he came back and was like Reek Theon, Yeah. He seemed to be like, oh, please let me just hang out with you guys and don't kick my ass.
Yeah. Man. So much about this episode that I was just like, I wasn't like actively like angry and shouting at the TV or anything like that, but I was just sitting there like, yeah, well, okay.
How much money do you think they made per episode?
Too much.
Really? Too much?
Absolutely.
I mean,
so the problem is that now, so assuming that it makes an ass ton of money, it justifies them having written a mediocre show. So, yeah. And that's never good in my opinion. To justify mediocrity is one of the worst things that you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would have been probably if the source material had all been there. It would have been harder for it to have been mediocre.
Yeah, because then they would have had the conundrum of, do we abandon the books and thus the goodwill of all the fans, or do we follow the books and continue to have the goodwill of all the fans?
Dude, that was kind of an interesting thing with Full Metal Alchemist. I think that's what was happening. Like, they started making an anime when the manga was coming out, and then it caught up, and they couldn't do anything. And then they were just like, well, let's make our own. And then they wrote their own ending, which was cool. It was a good show, and then they even had a really cool movie. And then they came out with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood,
whenever the manga was complete.
Which everyone agrees is better.
Well, it's just better because it is longer and has the source material, and so it can be fleshed out further and such.
Well, it wasn't that much longer though, right? Weren't they both only about 50
episodes?
So
much more that happens in Brotherhood.
Maybe more might have happened, but it wasn't longer in episodes though.
Well, yeah, because they pretty much catch up to the original series like in episode 12 of Brotherhood. Yeah. Like, they get there real goddamn quick. They stretched out everything in the original one because they wanted to get to that 50 episode mark, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Or they were hoping that maybe the manga would continue, that's probably or whatever it is.
But that's one of those things that I think that because of the timing and the source material that they had, I don't think that they necessarily could have done it. It's like, it's just so. Oh man, it's just. I feel like it all kind of boils back down to the creativity of like the single person without being influenced by all the others. Like, I think that's why we keep pointing it out to. That's probably why we like our book club thing so much, just because we literally like, all right, now let's get a chunk of John Hugh, let's get a chunk of Stephen King, right? And then we just get like, I don't know, it's just theirs. I mean, there's obviously editors and stuff that help. But I feel like editors aren't there to rewrite the story. Editors are there to be like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Can you rewrite it for me so it makes a little more sense or something? Yeah. Or he's like, that's not supposed to make sense. That's part of the that's part of the story. Yeah. All in all, what would you think? Would you watch? I mean, are you gonna watch the show again? You think, or are you just done with it forever?
I think it'll be interesting to come back to the show in 5 years or 10 years or something and watch it as a whole and see if the distance does it any favors.
Yeah, I know I'm going to rewatch this season again. I don't know how soon. Hopefully, it won't be 5 years probably for me, but like, I didn't watch the season 7 again until right before we started the podcast for this show.
Right. I think it'll be interesting to watch the whole series again and to do so maybe in a little bit of time, because I don't want to, as bad as the past 2 seasons were, I don't want to be starting the first season like, all right, back to the good stuff, because fuck the last 2.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be distanced from everything that has happened and all the, emotions and thoughts that I have about the current product. And then as fresh as one can be that has gone through it all before, just then take the whole thing in again. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be best served to do it like in at least like a couple of years.
It'll probably be best to do it in a couple of years, because like with The Office, when they got rid of Steve Carell or whatever, like or not got rid of him when he went to go make a shitload of movies and stuff.
Right.
Like that's kind of not the breaking point of the show, but there's only a couple more seasons that are good, and then I literally can't watch it anymore. Like I just don't care about anybody at all anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what Game of Thrones did a little bit to the masses, is like sort of towards the end, it was just like, all right, we kind of don't really care at all anymore, and then they stopped caring at all anymore, and they just beeline to the end. And
right.
I think with Space though, like giving it Space, I still haven't watched. To be fair, I haven't seen that half of The Office, like the new the last like.
You're better off not.
See, that's what everyone says, but that also had closure at certain points too. That like you could stop after Michael leaves because it was closure, and then you couldn't stop in this one after season 6 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So you'd have to finish it, and I think it'll probably be good objectively in a couple of years, but I think since we all wanted our own thing,
I don't think it's going to be good objectively. I think that it's going to be you can put it in as part of the whole, and therefore it's more bearable maybe, but it's not going to become any better from an objective standpoint.
I think with the distance away from it and like kind of it being less of a thing, I think it'll be like, oh, let's have a Game of Thrones, not a watch party, but it'll be a thing that like, since like it's not such a huge phenomenon now, I think it'll be more enjoyable later to be like kind of like on your own, like I'm gonna do Game of Thrones, so it'll be more of like you're doing it through your own pursuit, not like, oh, Game of Thrones is on, I gotta watch it, and then be a part of, you know what I mean?
Right, but that's not objective viewing, that's more subjective, because you're, like you said, you're doing
but that's what I'm saying. I think we're all
I
think we're all subject to the current phenomena of it, and I think objectively when we put ourselves
it definitely
outside
influences
of it,
but
and I think it's a huge influence, more than I want to let it.
But you're talking about the distance giving it more objective quality, which
I think it will have more quality when I.
Well, the writing's not going to change in 2 years. It's still going to be a betrayal of the theme of the show.
I think when I distance myself from it and think of it as a show itself, and this is just what they did, I'm not going to think of it as a betrayal on the show. I'm just going to think of it as like the points of the show and be like, oh yeah, remember when this happened? Like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to think of, I'm just not going to think of it like that. I don't think. I for whatever reason, I think for me, it'll be things. I don't know. I don't. I think it's definitely.
Well, even just saying for me immediately distances you from the word objective.
It's objective for me, right? Isn't that a thing?
Subjective is what you're talking about.
Yeah, then that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, in my opinion, it's the only one that matters, so.
The others don't get to decide.
Or they'd be talking about it, right? So. I mean, I think, honestly, so I guess in my little world, I think with the distance from all the, like, the hate and stuff from it, I think I'll be able to enjoy it more. I think enjoying it along with the world as like the phenomena, that was really cool. Like you're never going to get to redo that experience.
Right, yeah.
Just like Harry Potter, you're never going to get to grow up with the actors.
The cultural phenomena is on its own a totally different thing that is unique anytime that happens.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, I guess just aside from that, I think for me, whenever I can separate myself from that, I'll be able to think of the show as its own thing. Like this was... I probably won't judge it as hard as, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think you're right, though. I was using the wrong words. It'll be subjectively, it'll be better, but objectively, it won't change.
No, yeah. Because objectively, this season had some of the best filmography of the entire series.
Oh, dude, that shot when Daenerys was walking from the throne and the dragon was flapping behind her and it looked like she had dragon wings. That was fucking cool.
It was definitely... Yeah, I mean, it was like visually stunning.
But it was corny, but it was fucking awesome, dude.
It's just not a corny show, and they're doing that kind of stuff.
I know, man. That was cool, though. I liked it that time. They only did it once. It's not like they did it fucking every time you saw her.
Yeah, I know, but
so
they didn't even have to do
it
for
me. That's
dumb.
why it was cool for me. I thought it was sick, dude. It looked good.
Yeah, it looked good. It's just, I don't know, it's just stupid.
Well, yeah.
It's like everything else in this stupid fucking show. This show's so stupid. I think the best shot of this episode was Dany walking up to the throne, and we get the side shot of the throne room, and it's all now not a throne room, it's a patio.
Dude, and she looked like she was going insane.
Because that's like, that's a one-for-one shot almost of several other times that we've seen characters make that same walk to the throne room, only it was intact at the time. And so there was a lot of really good stuff.
Dude,
cinematically.
And her acting in that, dude. Just
the acting has never failed in this show.
Dude,
all the actors continued to be incredible. Certainly for actors that started off as nobodies when this show started.
Dude, Emilia Clarke did so good on just that scene you're talking about. Like, her face was saying shit to me, like, and she literally didn't even talk. And I was like, dude, she's going fucking insane on this walk. Like, I literally was watching her go insane. And then when John came there, I was watching her eyes, and she literally looked like a fucking crazy person, man. Like, I don't know how she did that, but that was amazing. Like, what she was doing with her eyes, like opening them up just a little too wide or whatever she was doing, it was just like, dude, you were fucking creeping me out. That is so good. You were doing so good. She was great.
None of the acting has ever been the problem of this.
I never realized how good it was. Until
the acting has always been. Well, I guess not always, because there's definitely some places where some of the acting was kind of like suspect or whatever. Yeah. It's just always been the writing, and even in the early seasons, there's definitely points where the writing was kind of like, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was at that time a relatively low budget new fantasy prestige show. Like who cares about how this is going to go in the end? You
know what's funny about that too is I think still it was like on the high end of budgets for like it was like the highest budget show that had ever been done. Like I think they spent like $1 million an episode or something like that, which had like never been done before for like a series. I want to say they had broken some record. I don't know if that's true. I want to say that's true.
I would be surprised if it cost them that much the first season.
Let's see if anybody out in the universe remembers. Do y'all remember last season having to wait 2 weeks for episodes of this show? Because I was talking to Will about it, and I definitely remember when Game of Thrones was coming out, we had to wait like 2 weeks every now and then. Like the first 3 weeks, we got an episode every week, and then we had to wait 2 weeks. And then we got an episode, and then we had to wait 2 weeks, and then we got an episode, and then we had to wait 2 weeks, Mm-hmm. And I remember that, and then we looked it up, and the release dates say it was week to week. At least the wiki update says that. So let's see if any of you guys remember that. I would love to know if I'm getting like memory loss or something. I don't know. If I'm just because I swear that happened, man, and you thought so too. So it could have just been another show we were watching.
It seemed to sound right to me, but
it could have just been another show we were watching.
Like it was the last episode that we had to wait an extra week.
Maybe that's all it was. Maybe it was just the one episode.
But when we were looking at the calendar of episode releases, they were week to week to week according to Wikipedia. But whatever that's worth. I just want to see the cost of the episodes.
I think. Man, when these books come out, we should do a one-off episode on our book club show, dude. Like, we should just read them on our own, and then be like, let's hit when's a winner, man. Like, I mean, I hope we don't have to wait for him to die, but I'm still a fan of the series. I don't think the last two seasons got me out. And honestly, I really did like Bran ending up on the throne. Like, I feel like somebody said that. I think Kenneth said that he had heard some fan theory that was like Bran winding up on the throne, but I literally gave it no credence. I was just like, that can't happen. Never gonna happen. And obviously, it happened.
I could find it somewhere if I kept looking, but I don't give a shit. Well...
Yeah, so
it's over.
Yeah, full thoughts. Well, what do you think? You gonna read the books when they come out?
Yeah, I'll read the books when they come out. And to be honest, I need to finish Dance of Dragons. I haven't finished it still.
You never finished it?
Okay. Never did. Because it's the boring one of the two. Oh, Feast for Crows was so much better.
You like that one more?
Yeah, Dance of Dragons is boring.
But it had more of the characters that I liked. I guess that was the bigger appeal for me.
But I just kind of didn't pick it back up one day for some reason, and I need to. At some point, I don't know. There's other books that I'm enjoying way better, so I'm just gonna do those first.
Yeah.
So yeah, at some point I'll finish that, and then whenever When's a Winner and
probably when that one comes out, you'll finish it.
Out, yeah.
That'll probably be the push you need to finish it because there's no real incentive to finish it now.
Yeah, because who knows when it's gonna finish?
Yeah, if you finish it now, you're just gonna be like, all right, well, John's dead now. At least John's still alive for you. Yeah. At least John's still alive in your world. Yeah. So. Let's end on that. John's still alive in the books for Will, and Bran's the king in the end for the show.
Yeah.
You're the king, though, Will.
Am I? Am I the king? Okay. I'll be king.
I'll be king.
What do you think I came down here for?
That was so funny, dude. It's such a douchey, stupid line. With his face on it when he said it, he was like...
I know, he's all fucking snarky. We spent, like, 15 episodes of either not seeing Bran or Bran having exactly no emotion about anything. And now he's just like all fucking... Well, what are you
now
going
he's got attitude.
Here for?
He's like, yeah, I came all the way here to be king, stupid.
Right.
It's just minus the stupid part.
And then he fucking pieces out of the small council meeting. He's like, oh, find Drogon? That's a great excuse to not talk to you guys. I'm going to go do that later.
I actually kind of liked that. I was like, he's like, well, maybe I can go find him. And then I was like, honestly, dude, you probably could, but that won't help anything. Like, what is that gonna? What purpose is that gonna serve?
This is stupid.
If anything, Arya should go fucking find Drogon. Like, that should be her job. That would be a book I'd read.
Arya's a pirate now. She's not a pirate. She's an explorer.
Is she in Liza in the second sequel for Liza?
Red Seas Under the Red Skies.
Is she in that one?
I haven't come across her yet.
Is it a crossover? Man. Well, I'm glad. I've enjoyed it, man. I'm doing a second podcast. I think we should do it. Maybe not this next week because I have a holiday. I'm going on vacation next week.
Yeah, and we got to find something that we want to do as well.
Yeah, so we'll probably be...
I thought it would maybe be interesting to do it on that Chernobyl show, but that's already started. So.
Oh, it already started?
Yeah,
we missed it?
It's already like 4 episodes in.
Oh, man. Yeah, we'd have to
we can't do that week to week.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'll probably just watch that on my own.
Yeah, I'm going to have to write that one down so I don't forget to watch it, though, because that sounds interesting. But, yeah, we'll find something. I enjoyed this. Hopefully we can find another cool show. I mean, whenever My Hero comes out, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think that'll be good, but that's not going to be until September, I think. So, we'll find something. And we'll do the 2 episodes a week again at some point whenever we find something we want to do. It's got to be a show because we can't read 2 books at once.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
insane. It's hard enough for me to do it, and I'm doing 1 for fun, not for the show.
Yeah, so. I was going to start doing 2 for fun. I mean, I have some books that I'm just flipping through, but they're more like textbook style books. It's one about white-tailed deer that I'm just like, I pick up and I read, and it's like, I learned this thing today about deer. Let me put my book up.
Right.
You know? But yeah, I think I'll do a quick plug for, I want to reread 1984, so I think I'm going to pick that one up. Read that. You're going to do
a plug for a really old book?
Well, yeah, maybe other people will read it too, and they can tweet us about it, and I'll just be like, yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I don't know. I want people to read. I don't care what they read.
Okay.
I want them to read what we're reading too. Right. Obviously, I guess I do care. But,
forget the whole premise of this show.
That's for another show, not this show.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, speaking of which, we need to start thinking about what's going to happen next for the book club, because we're recording the middle episode after this, and we're recording the final episode Friday.
True that.
So we need to figure that out. We don't have as much time to figure that out. We'll figure that out.
We'll get it, yeah.
Either that or we'll just pick the first book that we find, just like we did for Scythe. So whether it be lazy or we'll think about it. Y'all will find out.
Lazy worked out so far. I'm enjoying this one, honestly. I really like it.
It's been enjoyable so far. I'm continuing to, I think, just be on board at this point.
At least you're on board, man. It's not like Beacon 23 where I was like, I'm off.
I was actively fighting that book.
I'm actively enjoying this one. Like, there keep being parts where I'm like, I didn't see that coming. That was fun.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's definitely taken me by surprise once or twice so far, which is good. And I wonder if it's just because I've just been engaged, or just just be like, okay, I am on this ride, or less than being like super into it and trying to figure out what's going to come next. I don't know. Not that I'm really good at figuring out a lot of things. I mean, I called it decent amount of games so much.
I mean, either way though, it's a good way. It's a fun way to see you intake the media. Either way, whether you're super engaged trying to figure it out, or if you're just along for the ride, it's still fun to watch you break it down and have us talk about it. So,
right? Yeah, that's obviously the point. Yeah.
So hey, well, let's end on that, dude. We'll see y'all. We'll see y'all in I don't know, some Monday here in the future, but we'll see you in a couple days.
Yeah, on Wednesday with the continuation of Scythe.
Yeah, so stay
Part
tuned.
2. I'm Will Hedrick.
I'm Jordan Schaffer.
This is Dog Ears and Timestamps. Go Bruins.
They're still in.